Hi, and welcome to InFocus. This is Jabbar Al-Ubaidi. In this episode, we will stay away from politics and probably elections. Everybody knew that is behind us. I hope it's behind us. And other issues that we've been busy with for really the whole 2020. So I would say welcome to 2021. Happy New Year for everyone. This is the first episode that we have decided to record and share with you on this day, which is January 15th, and it's Friday. So happy Friday, happy New Year. So in this episode of InFocus, I have with me through Zoom, Carissa Leveille Nylin. Carissa, share with our viewers something that you feel comfortable with to introduce yourself and also your background. Please, Carissa.
Thank you so much for having me this morning. This is really a pleasure to be here with you. So my background is really in photography. I've been a photographer for the last going on 12 years now, and I've shot hundreds of weddings. I also shot family portraits, maternity, landscapes, anything you can think about. When COVID hit, it really took an effect on the wedding industry. It had an effect on the industry as a whole. And so many people, so many friends, other businesses that I've worked with at weddings were kind of like, what's going to be the next step? What are we going to do? For me, that was a good transition point to start working on some of my other creative projects that I had been, that I had started in the past, but didn't have time to finish. So that was kind of the birth of a new business that I created, Tiny House Creative Studios. And I'm really excited to kind of spread the word about that business because it includes donating back to the community, which is something super, super important. And it really plays off of my photography because I use a lot of the photography skills that I have learned to make the illustrations that go into the children's books that I have started to write and to self-publish. So it's been a really exciting last few months, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you so much. So what brought you to the area of photography? Did you go to school? Did you join some probably training or just share with us how you got into this?
That is a great question. And I'm sure my mom will end up watching this and she will laugh because I actually have a degree in philosophy from Rhode Island College. I graduated in 2009. While I was finishing up my degree, I was shooting weddings. I was fully involved. I loved it. I knew that one day I wanted to have my own business, and I second shot for a bunch of people. I did every job I could. I was also nannying at the time with children, and I got a lot of my family portrait jobs through that channel and just started working as much as I could. Before that, what really gave me the opportunity to fall in love with photography is when I traveled abroad. I took a semester abroad in France because not to torture my poor mother anymore after changing majors from, business to French, I decided, hey, I'm going to go live in France for a few months and check it out. And while I was there, it was really the first time in my life that I hadn't worked. I have worked part-time jobs, since I've been old enough. I was, barely 14. I got my first summer job. I grew up down in Narragansett, Rhode Island, and I worked at the Best Eaten Donuts by the Block Island Ferry. I don't even know if Best Eaten is still around in Rhode Island. There was one in Westerly, but I haven't been down there in so long. And, being able to take the time off for study abroad and being able to take photos of everything and a lot of landscapes, I really fell in love with the art. And that is how I became addicted to photography.
That's wonderful. First of all, I'm so happy to hear that you joined the study abroad and you went there. So because as educators, I'm promoting all this study abroad for my students and our students at Bridgewater State University, who are big on that. We want students to go out and experience other culture. So and this is really interesting. You mentioned that there is somehow a linkage between philosophy, creative art, and photography. Could you elaborate on this? I mean, because you are a philosopher in a way, because your degree is in philosophy. So can you just walk us through, in terms of the narrative, the relationship between philosophy and the philosophical thinking, creativity, and photography, and especially the area of wedding, which is very in a way inclusive and exclusive. Inclusive because all invitees, especially families, are together. Exclusive when it comes to the two. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to touch on that. And now that I'm sitting here thinking, it's like everything in my past really has, come together to allow me to do what I'm doing now. So my philosophy professor, the one I remember the most, Glenn Rawson at Rhode Island College. And I remember studying Rene Descartes. And I always go back to the Latin, this could be totally wrong, cogito ergo sum, or the French, je pense, donc je suis, I think, therefore I am. And I kind of have this mentality that once I get an idea in my head that I think, I just keep working at it until I can do it. So, starting a photography business with a philosophy degree, everybody was kind of like, what are you doing? But for me, it was, I think this, I think I can do this. I'm going to use what I learned in, my college education, not just with my philosophy classes too, but all my general ed classes too. And in the study abroad, I'm so glad that you pointed out how important it is for students, because that experience in itself definitely changed the kind of person that I am. And putting the college experience all together, all the classes, all the experiences, it really gave me the tools I needed to be successful as a photographer. So it didn't matter that my degree was in philosophy, because I had communication tools, I had writing skills, I had everything I needed to be able to work with clients professionally. So it was a really good jumping off point to do my first business as a photographer. And I absolutely loved it. I love weddings. I love when the bride comes down the aisle. I'm trying not to shed a tear behind my camera, and, shooting the weddings. I was able to learn so much more about people, learn so much more over the course of time about editing and, Adobe and Photoshop. And that gave me the skills I needed to be able to work on, my next project, the books, because then I was skilled in, in design, which a lot of people have to hire out, but I was able to do those things myself with the skills I learned from my photography business, which built off my base foundation. So if my mom is watching this, she'll be able to say, I told you studying abroad was a good idea. I told you that, doing everything that you did in college would pay off one day. And I apologize, Mom, for changing my major so much, but I know you're super proud. So I appreciate everything you did.
I'm glad to hear that, and I'm sure she is proud of you. See, I'm fascinating about this story. So you valued the experience in the study abroad.
Yes.
So because it has really three elements. One, you kind of go and experience new elements out of your comfort zone, and you go there. So tell me what kind of cultural experience that you have when you have your own culture, and then you went there and you interact with the people. That's the second element, is interaction, the interaction with the people. And you said, as you said correctly, and on point, that communication skills in writing, in visual thinking, and also in interacting with people. And the third thing, I think, element is what were the most important outcomes from that study abroad experience in terms of your business?
Those are great questions. I'm just taking a moment to process everything. So if I'm being truthful, the study abroad really, I don't want to say, set me in the right direction, but that's basically what it did. When I was in school, I might have been, not paying as much attention as I should. I might have been kind of like the young mentality, let me go to college parties, this is so fun and amazing. I kind of went to France to study abroad to give myself that time to learn, that time to think, that time to just be with myself. And coming from here, being, American college student, depending on Dunkin' Donuts on every corner and having my car and just all of the things that we consider, to be part of our daily routines, and going there really completely changed my mentality. And I like to think for the better because, I get over there and I figure out that, okay, I'm going to walk to school every day and I'm going to, not have my car, which was a big adjustment, but it ended up being so good for me. Being over there, I think I ate the most food I've ever eaten in my life, but I was the healthiest because I was running every single day. I chose to live with a host mom. Her name was Evelyn, and not with other students because I really wanted to immerse myself in the culture. And I can just remember doing special things with her. And she would always, get crepes, and we would have the crepes and dip them in the hot chocolate. And she would actually run with me sometimes. It was a very special time to be able to immerse myself in that other culture and, really think, what do I want? Being out of the American culture, being out of, the routines that we have here was very beneficial for my growth as a student and as an overall person that would lead me to the next things that I did. I don't think that, or I believe that if I did not go to study abroad, I would not have gone down the same path. And I'm very glad that I ended up on this path.
It's excellent. I want you to come and speak to my intercultural communication class.
I would love to.
About your experience is wonderful. And it's yes, immersing yourself into any culture you go there, because that will develop and grow our culture or communication competencies. Because when you travel, and this is very important to your business, because your business is not just oriented towards certain group of people, is very broad, and we need to make sure that we understand the cultures and be culturally sensitive and understanding. So I really appreciate this conversation because this is shows your intelligence and also your character in terms of immersing yourself and appreciating another cultures. That will enhance, I think, your business. So with that, I would say, tell me about in your business. So I know COVID-19 it imposes on us and still is imposing on us unprecedented conditions, and we have a lot of issues with it. And hopefully, with the vaccine and vaccination and things like that, we'll put this behind at least this year. So COVID-19 has, as individual, as a business women, imposes on you or motivates you to think otherwise in another way, so you can survive and also keep everything in place in terms of creativity. So tell me how COVID-19 has impacted you to jump into this. I wouldn't say jump, to have this new process to switch and transit to this new line of work.
Yeah, so I was actually spending some time thinking about that recently, and I don't want to ever say that COVID was or has its silver linings, because I feel like like you touched on, so many people have lost loved ones. So many people are suffering, economically, the mental health in this country. So I don't want to call it a silver lining, but I always like to look for the positives, count my blessings. And, this has given me the time that we've had here being mainly in our house has given me the opportunity to work on my creative projects. It's also given me the opportunity to homeschool my amazing daughter, who is 7, who has taught me so much more than I could ever learn anywhere about the ability to just keep going, to persevere. She is just a brilliant little thing, and she just keeps trying. She actually drew the ice cream cone on the cover of my book. So I'm very proud of her, but she absolutely loves life. So given everything that's going on with COVID, I couldn't shoot weddings anymore. Well, that's actually not entirely true, because I did still shoot 2 that I had contracts for, but it was completely different, showing up with a mask and, being there with a limited number of guests and just having things be, so different to keep everybody safe was an eye-opening experience in itself. To think about what weddings were before this, and then to think about what it has done to the industry and the brides and grooms now, it was really hard to be at those last weddings. And these are just weddings that my clients didn't cancel, that they just persevered through, and they did a limited number of guests. So I actually remember leaving my very last wedding. It was at the Mansion Bald Hill in Connecticut, and great venue. I had been there before and shot weddings. And I remember leaving in the car, just crying, because the bride and groom, so sweet, we became fast friends during their engagement session. And I just felt like, I hope that they had enjoyed the day. I hope I was able to deliver the same experience to them. And just, it was bittersweet to be going out knowing that was the last wedding I was planning to shoot. I have not booked any more weddings. I've been turning them down politely, because now, like you touched on, my business is transitioning. My photography business, the Ella Grace Photography, is transitioning to mini sessions, and it's transitioning to landscape photography. This is allowing me time to work on my new business, the Tiny House Creative Studio, and it's also allowing me time to homeschool my daughter. So balancing everything out, again, is a skill that doesn't come easy, and some days it's a lot easier than others. But the things I've learned over the last, 12 years have really taught me how to do this. And most days it works out well. And the days that I struggle, I have lots of coffee, extra coffee.
Well, Carissa, you are a mom, a teacher, and a businesswoman, a creative photographer. So tell me about the tiny house business, and you're dealing with pets and dogs and things like that.
So my new business, Tiny House Creative Studio, is almost like a member of our family now, because it has been a dream of ours to own a tiny house, and we are not there yet. But one day I actually want to have a tiny house to be selling my creative projects out of. So the business focuses around books, self-published books. My first one, A to Z for DOG, is a to Z bedtime book for tiny humans and the dogs, big and small, that we all love so dearly. And it's really great for younger kids, 2, 3, that are learning their alphabet, that like to visually recognize and practice the ABCs. But it's also great for rhythmic readers, because it has a very familiar and comfortable rhyme scheme. So it can really help them practice their tone and their intuition and everything like that.
So could you read this? Show us the picture that your daughter painted.
Oh,
so
yes.
What is it? Okay.
So this is the cover of the book. It's one of my favorite illustrations.
Of course.
It actually goes with letter I, ice cream truck stopped by today. And she drew this ice cream on the front of the book, the ice cream cone on the truck.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so what's inside the book? So just...
Yes, so let me show you some of my favorite pages. So This is like letter Q. Quickly running through the snow.
Okay.
Ready now? It's time to go. So it follows dogs, mainly my dog Peter, who is a 14-year-old Schnauzer, and he is such a sweetheart. It follows all these adventures that dogs have. You know, children, families, loving their pets so much. We have all these grand adventures for them. So it's a great story for not only littles, but for anybody that loves a dog, because if you're like us, your dog has been to the drive-in with you and been hiking with you. And it really is a recap of all the wonderful experiences that a dog has in their lifetime. So it's a very special project to us because it's, you know, educational for children, but it also gives back. $1 from every book sold is going to be donated back to animal rescue. And I actually haven't made the announcement yet, but I am happy to do it here. I was going to do it later today on my social media. We have chose Vintage Pet Rescue, and I made this in case anybody wants to donate to them.
Yes.
They are a rescue here in Rhode Island, where I live. They're over in Foster, Rhode Island, and they only work with senior dogs. And they do amazing things over there. And if you want to donate to them, you know, they're always in need of monetary donations because their vet bills, I mean, imagine your vet bill for one dog. They have so many dogs they help over there. So you can go right on their website and donate to them and check them out.
That's nice. So, you know, we are approaching the finishing line of this program. So what you are hoping to accomplish?
So my dream is to continue publishing and making these children's books and donating back to the community. So I have some other books that I've been working on now. One is actually over at an editor, and each book, you know, whatever area that book is in, I'm going to find a nonprofit or an organization in that area to make the donations back to. So I have a book, I won't reveal the title yet, but it is about pelicans. It's from one of my favorite places in Florida, down where my grandmother lives. And that book is going to be donating back to wildlife conservation. And I have another book I'm working on right now with my mother, who is a speech and language pathologist. And that book is going to be donating back to education. So, you know, first time author, I have some really hefty goals. I'm like, come on, I'm going to be lucky if I sell 50 of these. I want to sell 500. And Valentine's Day this year, my first book launches. I'm having a party online. Valentine's Day next year, I'm hoping to show up at the Vintage Pet Rescue. I want to bring them one of those big old checks. And my goal is $500. I'm secretly hoping for a little more, but I'm going to be realistic being a first-time author, and I'm going to, you know, work and market and see what we can do.
Well, Carissa Leveille Nylin, as I said, you are a mom, a teacher, a creative photographer, and also a contributor to the community because you are giving back to your community. And this is what we need in this country, to grow this country, to make it more prosperous. And you have this positive attitude. I really appreciate that. Any last word for the young people, you know, girls and boys, in terms of thinking of something and delivered on that thing?
So my words to the young people in our communities would be to follow your dreams, follow your dreams. I actually met a woman, a mom in my bank yesterday, and she has a little girl that makes these beautiful bracelets. And she was telling me how she was giving them out and she was selling them for $1 at the bank. And my message to you is do it. If you want to start a business, regardless of how old you are, you should work on that. Even if it takes you a long time, you should take one step at a time. There's lots of great organizations that can help in New England, in Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Score.org. It is an organization that helped me out when I first started my photography business. It's run by retired professionals, and you can go on their website and you could link up with a business mentor to help you get those first steps. So for young people out there, If you have a dream, I want you to follow it. And I also encourage you to try to give back to your community whenever you can, whether it's starting a drive for the local pet shelter or working on a different project. It's always so good to give back, and it's going to make you feel wonderful.
Well said. Thank you so much for your time, Carissa. I wish you well and stay safe. And hopefully we will have you again in focus. And thank you.
It would be my honor. Thank you, Dr. Jabbar Al-Obadi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for watching InFocus. This is Jabbar Al-Obadi.